Welcome to our video on the 90s. Title, Too Much Info, Too Many Fad Diets. Well, and the question first, lots of popular diet books were written then. Why didn't your diet become one of the fad diets? Well, because my diet isn't a diet. It's actually a set of principles. And you write a book about a set of principles, which I did in 1987, Traditional Foods Are Your Best at Medicine, and another one in 2003, The Untold Story of Milk. It's not going to become a fad diet because it's not a diet. The reason it's not a diet is because everybody's diet is different. Now, I've described what my diet is like and the kind of diet that I recommended to people, or recommend now to people and have for many years. But every person's going to implement it differently. And a diet is limited, a lot of people would say limited or restrictive, as different as mine is never going to become a fad diet. And I really wasn't interested in writing the kind of book that would become a fad diet, because I think fad diets in general don't work. Principles work, and when you understand the principles, which we're going to go into more and more in these last couple of videos on the 90s and the 2000s. But basically a diet that incorporates lots and lots of quality animal fats, which is against every fad diet out there because there's just so little understanding of the importance and value of animal fats in the diet, and so much misinformation about the danger of animal fats. Misinformation that's been peddled by the drug industry so they can sell Lipitor and these other cholesterol-lowering drugs. You don't wind up with a popular diet book. So much for fad diets. And our next question on the 90s. What about the increasing popularity in those years of vegetarian and vegan diets? That is another excellent question, and that's really a real problem, the increasing popularity there. You know, if you go from scotch and cheesecake and bread and pasta to raw vegetables as a diet, you're going to do pretty well for a few years, really. You're going to feel better. If you were overweight, you're going to lose weight. Some of your medical problems are going to go away, and you're going to think vegetarianism is great. But when you go on with it then, for 6 or 8 or 10 years, almost invariably, well, really invariably, problems occur. They occur more slowly, they take a longer time to appear. The more raw vegetables and sprouts and greens and your true raw food vegan kind of a diet, and they appear more rapidly in your lots of cooked food, sort of macrobiotic type, grains and vegetables and sweets kind of a diet. Those people go downhill quickly. But sooner or later the problems appear because human beings are designed by nature to eat animal food, quality animal food. Weston Price studied all over the world for decades, never found a culture anywhere that was living according to the wisdom of their ancestors on a vegetarian diet. All cultures everywhere emphasize the importance of animal foods. So I have an article posted, Recovering from Vegetarianism, which goes into this in more depth. And if you've been a vegetarian or are a vegetarian or are leaning toward vegetarianism, I would suggest that you take a look at that. It's hard for people generally to go against conventional wisdom. And when newspapers and the media are full of pro-vegetarian slants on diet, and doctors who, to a T, all espouse the party line, because they really couldn't be in the positions of power that they're in if they didn't espouse the party line, about animal fat is bad for you, you got to avoid foods with cholesterol, and all the real true malarkey that is out there. It's hard for people to be willing to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to listen. I'm going to listen to this naturopath guy over here who my medical doctor says is out to lunch. I'm going to listen to him instead. So you have to be willing to think for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Read my books, read my articles, go to the sources that I quote and check those out, and learn to think for yourself. And when you do, come back and visit, and you'll find the information that you really need here.
I have a question just off the top of my head. Why do so many people get gray hair in their 30s and 40s? I mean, you know, that seems awful young to be getting gray hair.
Well, gray hair, like loss of hair, is not necessarily genetic. It's a sign of nutritional deficiencies. And it doesn't happen, even if it runs in the family, when people are adequately nourished. Gray hair in particular and white hair is thought in some nutritional circles to be particularly reflective of poor calcium metabolism. I've seen gray hair go back to black in the case of a gentleman I roomed with in naturopathic medical school, shared an apartment with for 2 years. And his hair actually turned from gray to black during those years as he learned about Weston Price's work. We were reading Price's work together outside of class. And he began eating more animal foods, raw animal foods, liver. And a lot of his gray hair reversed to black. And I've seen that you know, in a number of people that I've worked with. You know, hair in general, there was a question earlier about why I didn't get a haircut for the videos. I figure at my age, if you got hair, you show it off. So here I am.
Okay, you said it was a calcium metabolism problem, but then you talked about liver. You didn't
yes,
say you should
that's
take
true,
calcium.
but sometimes there multiple things happen as opposed to just one. And raw liver has raw food enzymes, raw proteins. Calcium is another story. But I did say with the liver, it was gray hair going back to black, and the calcium metabolism seemed to be involved in white hair. So there's a subtle difference there. And I'm not saying direct cause and effect on either of those. I mean, but I do know that it's nutrition. I mean, 30 years ago in naturopathic medical school, my classmates used to say, oh, our hair's getting gray, we're so stressed out, we got families, we got to try and spend some time with the kids, and the wife's not happy, I'm studying all the time, I'm so stressed out, my hair's getting gray. And I said, hey, I'll tell you what, I got $50 for the first gray hair in my head. I'm stressed out, man. I'm single, I'm lonely. I'm stressed out too. Why isn't my hair gray? I'll tell you why, because of the way I eat. Well, I'm not sure if there's any gray up top. I know there's a few in my beard. But point being that good nutrition will stave off gray hair for a long, long time. Any other questions on that? Okay, we'll go on to the 2000s.